So today our very last lesson in 9.5 and our very last lesson of the quadratics, we are going to be looking at example 5, which is determining the most efficient method. Boom. Before we do that, today you need your normal notebook or paper or the printed notes. I did do a little bit, I did put out some notes for the example 5. It should be attached to your assignment in Google Classroom. So if you need to, you can go print that out real quick. Or you can just write them down, although there's a table, so you might not want to write that whole thing out. But it's up to you, totally up to you. Pencils, colored pencils, pens, and yes, you'll need your calculator today. And it's Thursday, otherwise known as Friday Junior, or as my daughter likes to call it, Junior Friday. I had lots of people ask me for help with number 23, the modeling with mathematics question from yesterday's homework. So one person asked me if we could just work it through together on the notes for today. So thank you, Ava. Yes, I will totally work this out. So we have a dolphin jumping out of the water as shown in the diagram. The jump is a parabola. It's a parabolic shape. The function h equals, let's change this to, we'll go dark gray since it's a dolphin. H equals negative 16 squared plus 26t, and that models the height in feet of the dolphin after t number of seconds. So after how many seconds is the dolphin at a height of 5 feet? Well, if we have our original equation, h equals negative 16 t squared plus 26t. Okay, and we want to know how many seconds it takes to get to a height of 5 feet. So our height is 5 feet, so we'll replace h with 5. Okay, now that we have that, I'm just going to move the 5 and solve using the quadratic formula. So subtract 5, subtract 5, and of course, I'm going to take just that handful of seconds to do my A value, my B value, and my C value. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and put things into quadratic formula. Okay. So, negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C over 2 times A. How annoying was that song I sent you guys yesterday? Super annoying, right? Are you singing it in your head right now? Right? Yep, it's there. Okay, sweet. All right, so this is negative 26 plus or minus. Okay, so 26 squared. Can't remember if this one has a squared button on it or not. Boom, there. 676. Okay, and then I'll have a negative times a negative times a negative, so this is going to end up being negative. So 4 times 16 times 5, 4, 16 times 5, 320, and 2 times negative 16 is negative 32. Okay, so from here, some of you may have been doing all of this work all at one time and not done this piece of it. You can do that, but if you make a mistake, how in the world are you going to figure out where you may have made your error? Okay, it could be something as simple as you wrote down the numbers wrong. It could be that you pushed a wrong button somewhere and got a wrong number. But that's why I do this little step right here every time. Because if I try to do too many steps at once, probably a mistake is going to get made. All right, so let's see. Just going to move that up just to squash it a little bit. Nifty, eh? Love my Apple Pencil. Okay, so now I have, writing utensil, negative 26 plus or minus square root, and 676 minus 320 is 356 over negative 32. Okay, so now where we're going to have our two equations. So I've got I have negative 26 plus, and then the square root of 356. Clear. 356 is 18.86. I'm going to round to the nearest tenth, so that would be 18.9. So, So negative 26 plus 18.9 divided by negative 32. And I've got negative 26 minus 18.9 over negative 32. So yeah, the square root of 356 is about 18.9. All right, so now negative 26. So negative 26 plus 18.9 equals negative 7.1 divided by negative 32 equals 0.22, so rounding to the nearest tenth. Not that. This gets me about 0.2. And then my second one, negative 26 minus 18.9. Negative 26 minus 18.9 equals negative 44.9 divided by negative 32. And that gives me 1.40, so 1.4. So there are the two answers. Okay, remember, when the dolphin jumps, it's a parabola. So the dolphin is hitting 5 feet on the way up and then on the way down. So that's why you have two separate answers. Okay, I hope that helped. If not, if you still have questions, then make sure that you send me an email. All right, let's get into today's lesson. It'll be a short one, I promise. So today we are looking at choosing an efficient method. So I have, the next page has a table that shows the 5 different methods that we've learned for solving quadratic equations. For a given equation, it may be more efficient to use one method or another. Some advantages and disadvantages are shown in the table. So you might already have a preference for one over others, but just remember that it might not be the fastest method. For me, let's see, I think my favorite is factoring. And then I also love using the quadratic formula. It's fantastic. Okay, so let's take a look at the chart. So the 5 methods. Factoring, man, that seems like forever ago, right? Section in chapter 7. It's straightforward when the equation can be factored easily. Like if you can look at the equation and go, oh yeah, totally, I can factor that. That's going to be done in lickety-split. You're not going to have to think about it. Disadvantages, some equations are not factorable. Then we have graphing. You can easily see the number of solutions if you've got it on a graph. You can use when approximate solutions are sufficient, and you can use a graphing calculator. However, graphing may not give an exact solution and takes a lot of time, especially if you have to make your own graph. Okay. Using square roots from lesson 9.3 if your equation is given to you in this form, yeah, but it can only be used when you've got this form. Completing the square. You can do completing the square for any quadratic equation. However, it's easiest to use when your a value is 1 and your b value is even. When they're not 1 or b isn't even, that's going to involve some tricky calculations. And probably some fractions. And I know how much you guys love the F word. Quadratic formula, it can be used for any quadratic equation. It gives an exact solution, but it takes time to do those calculations. Sometimes you don't have a choice. The quadratic formula is the only one that's going to give you the answer, the exact answer solution that you're looking for. Okay, so just taking a look, and we're only doing these 3 problems. You've got some problems to do for homework, but these are the only 3 that we're going to look at today. So which choice would you use and why? So why don't you pause the video if you didn't print out the notes, write down the problems, and then start looking at the problems. Don't start solving right away, but look at the problems, look at the methods, look at the table over here, and see, okay, how does this match up? What's the easiest, most efficient method? Press play when you are ready to move on. Okay, so looking at letter A, even if I move that 1 over, it's not going to be factorable, so I'm not going to factor it. But my A value is 1 and my B value is even, so it looks like I can use completing the square on this one. So, a reminder, completing the square, we are taking half of the B value, which is -5, and we are squaring that new B value, and we will add it to both sides. Okay, so now my new equation is x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals 26. Groovy. Okay, and then I factor the left side, so that's x minus 5, quantity squared, equals 26. And then from here, I am going to take the square root of both sides. So I have x minus 5 equals the positive and negative square root of 26. So I'm going to pop back over here to my calculator. 26 square rooted 5.09, so that is about 5.1. So x minus 5 equals positive negative 5.1. Okay, and now I can, you know what, let me add on another page so that I can finish up this problem, because I did not leave myself a bunch of space. Let's see. Wonder if I can. Oh, I can. Copy. I'm just learning all kinds of stuff. And paste. And let's rotate it. Bam. All right. So the equation didn't follow, but that's okay. So I've got 2 equations. I've got, oopsie, x minus 5 equals positive 5.1, and I've got x minus 5 equals negative 5.1. So I add 5. So one of my solutions, x is about 10.1. And my second solution, x is about negative 0.1. So there is for sample problem A. And I used the completing the square because our A value is 1 and our B value is even. All right, letter B. Letter B is 2x squared minus 13x minus 24. I am not seeing that it's very factorable easily, and probably by the time I figure out the factoring process, hey, it's not in that square roots form. I don't want to graph it. And completing the square, A is not 1 and B is not even, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going for quadratic formula. It's in standard form. Okay, so now I can just start working through. So negative B, and my B value is negative 13, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4, oopsie, times A times C over 2 times the A value. Okay, don't forget about those positives and negatives. So negative 13 is a positive 13. Okay, negative 13 squared is 169. And negative 4 times positive times negative 24, that is going to get me a positive number. And I'll use my calculator, 4 times 2 times 24. 4 times 2 times 24, 192. Over 4. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this and move it to the next page so I can finish. Copy. Paste. That's so funny that it does that. All right, so I've got 13 plus or minus, and then 169 plus 192, 361. Okay, so now I've got 13 plus the square root of 361, so we'll go ahead and take, oops. Ah! Let me double check that because I feel like I hit some weird buttons, which is totally possible. Oh, nice. I love when I get whole numbers. So plus 19 over 4, and then 13 minus 19 over 4. So 13 plus 19 is 32. Over 4 is 8. So one of our solutions, x equals 8. And then 13 minus 19 is negative 6 over 4, which is negative 1.5 or negative 3 over 2, whichever one you like. All right, so they're solving with quadratic formula. Okay, and letter C, I'm looking at it, and yes, I can factor that. So factors of 12 that add up to 6, both being positive, x plus 6, x plus 2. Don't forget you need to solve, so my x is negative 6, and my x is negative 2. Boom. Okay, so yes, you can use the quadratic formula for every single one, but why would I want to go through and use the quadratic formula for something like this? Factoring took me 30 seconds, maybe. Using the quadratic formula for that one probably take you a good 3 minutes. So use the chart, practice using the chart while you're doing your homework today, and just see if you can start noticing some of the pieces in the formula and the equations that you're given that can say, oh, hey, yeah, I am totally going to factor this one, or you know what, I'm going to use square roots on that one. Your homework is on Google Classroom, of course, listed as Thursday homework through Big Ideas Math. If you're having technical difficulties, then it's on the text page 521. You're doing 37 through 44. If you do it on paper, then make sure that you take a picture of it and email it to me. Tomorrow, Friday, we will be doing, I'll give you guys practice for section 9.5, and then I will also do a Google Meet so that you can work through the practice and then do the Google Meet. I'll probably do it late morning since it's Friday tomorrow. Maybe I'll do it at like 11 to 11:30, I'm thinking. And that way you can hop on and ask me any questions you might have. Or just pop on to say hello. Again, have any questions, email me. I'm trying to get back to people as fast as I can. And that's all. I miss you guys. Have a great day.